Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Informed Perspectives podcast. We're Penny and Jenny, and if this is your first time tuning in, welcome. We're really glad you're here. This podcast is a space where we explore what it means to build strong, thoughtful communities, grounded in our local lives, but enriched by the diverse connections, energy, and perspectives we can gather from around the world. As our name suggests, we believe meaningful change begins by listening, really listening to different voices, lived experiences, and perspectives that might challenge or expand our own. Every episode, we take a closer look at individual stories that spark reflection and help us rethink how we understand community, purpose, and impact. Our podcast conversations bring together voices from all around the globe, but the issues we explore are often grounded in the everyday realities of local communities, ours and others. These diverse perspectives offer fresh insights, build empathy, and ultimately bring renewed value back to the local context we care about the most. Today, we are looking at something we all experience, but often struggle to pin down: motivation. But first, what is motivation really? Motivation, logically enough, comes from the word motive, our needs, desires, and drives that push us to act. At its core, it's the force that gets us moving, helps us set goals, and that pushes us to act. At its core, it's the force of everything. It's that inner voice that urges us to try again, take a step forward, or hold on a little longer. Motivation plays a big part in shaping our lives, how we grow, how we make decisions, how we form habits, and find purpose. It's woven into our very nature and is essential to survival. It helps explain why we seek achievement, connection, meaning, and even power. We often find ourselves talking about what really gets us going. Is it something that comes from inside, like curiosity or passion? That's the intrinsic motivation. Or is it something external, like the rewards, the recognition, or pressure from others, the extrinsic motivation? Or is it actually a combination of the two? Then there are the more subtle drivers, like family expectations, personal ambition, or simply that feeling that something matters. There's a lot going on beneath the surface. Psychologists have explained this in many ways. One of the first ideas came from an American called Clark Hull. He believed we're motivated by basic needs like being hungry, thirsty, or needing to feel safe, and we take action to stop feeling uncomfortable and get back to a balanced state. And then there's Abraham Maslow, who's probably best known for his hierarchy of needs. He explained it as a pyramid with basic things like the food and the shelter at the bottom. And as those needs are met, we move up to things like friendship and confidence. And at the very top, something called self-actualization, which means becoming the best version of ourselves. Of course, other factors can come into play too: instinct, persistence, arousal, habit. Motivation is complex. Maybe it's also about wanting to change, wanting to grow, wanting to feel something, wanting to connect. Motivation can be incredibly powerful, but it can also be fleeting, which brings us to the question we're exploring today. Is motivation alone really enough, or is it more like a spark, brilliant at the start, but hard to sustain without something deeper? Some say it's discipline, routine, and the right support systems that help us get through when motivation fades. Others believe that if we nurture it well, motivation itself can fuel lasting change. As you listen today, you might find yourself reflecting on your own experiences. What gets you going when you feel stuck? How do you stay connected to what truly drives you? And how do we know when it's time to redefine what motivation even means? We might not land on one clear answer, but we'll hear ideas today to help us get thinking about this and understanding a little bit more about motivation as it evolves. Today, we're hearing from women who found their own answers through creativity, career changes, community building, and personal transformation. And before we dive in further, there's one more thing I want to highlight. Motivation is why Jenny and I created our Tween Talk, which is our space within the Informed Perspective, especially for young people between 9 to 13 years of age. It's a space where they can ask questions, share stories, and take part in meaningful conversations, not someday, but right now. And as always, at the end of today's discussion, we will share a question from one of our tweens put to our guests on this very subject of motivation, bringing a perspective that we potentially might not have considered coming from their viewpoint. Because often it's through hearing other people's perspectives that we find the motivation to grow, change, and reconnect with purpose. Now, as I always do, a few little quotes to get us looking a bit deeper into the subject that's on our minds today. Les Brown, a renowned American motivational speaker and author, said, "Wanting something is not enough. You must hunger for it. Your motivation must be absolutely compelling in order to overcome the obstacles that will invariably come in your way." Sheryl Sandberg, an American business executive and author, said, "Motivation comes from working on those things we care about. It also comes from working with people we care about." Eleanor Roosevelt, "With the day comes new strength and new motivation." Arianna Huffington, founder of the Huffington Post, "Motivate yourself with the possibility of success and not with the fear of failure." And our famous tennis idol, Serena Williams, "My motivation comes from within. I don't wait for someone else to motivate me." Diana Nyad, American long-distance swimmer, author, and motivational speaker, "Motivation's what gets you started. It's habit that keeps you going." And Shonda Rhimes, the American television producer, screenwriter, and author, "Don't try to motivate yourself with fear or with pressure. Motivate yourself with joy." So on that note, I'm going to pass over to Jenny to introduce today's wonderful guests.
Thank you, Penny. So the women we got joining us today have set out to support and empower others and create spaces where they can be supported and express themselves. And I just can't wait to hear about your own motivations and how you show up for others. So first up, we have Emily Hatton. She's a strategic growth consultant helping ambitious agency founders achieve operational excellence and financial clarity. With a proven track record scaling teams, streamlining operations, and driving revenue growth, Emily is passionate about building sustainable, high-performing businesses. She's also the founder of the Female Founder Space, a community for service-led women entrepreneurs on real connection, practical support, and sustainable growth. And Sharon Gandhi is a home organizer and interior designer, the founder of 1128 Home, who helps women create calm, beautiful spaces that truly work for everyday life. With a background in science and a love for creativity, she blends practicality with warmth. From setting up her first home to relocating across countries, Sharon knows how overwhelming life can get and how much a well-designed space can support it. Her goal isn't perfection, but creating homes that feel lived in, loved, and uniquely yours. And Marnie Nash helps women, especially those who are child-free, reconnect with joy, identity, and self-trust in a world that often centers motherhood. Her 8-week program guides women to shed old expectations, set clear boundaries, and create lives that feel fully their own. With a background in performance and storytelling, Marnie blends emotional depth with creative spark, creating warm, transformative spaces where women feel seen, heard, and empowered to live out loud. She is a passionate advocate for women to be seen as autonomous beings and believes every girl deserves the freedom to ask, "Is motherhood for me?" and for that answer to be fully valued. Now, back to Penny, and we'll start with our questions and conversation.
Great, thank you, Jenny. So Emily, I would like to turn to you first, if that's okay today. Thank you for coming and joining us. Going back to what Jenny said, you help founders build sustainable businesses. And I'm assuming this is helping them have long-term motivation, I guess, and moving on beyond their visionary ideas that they might have. How did you get into this space? I mean, how does this apply to your own life story? Did you potentially see that you had to use motivation as a tool within your own work? Or is that something that, yeah, I mean, can you tell me a little bit about the motivation in the work that you do?
Sure. So for me, because I'm a specialist in operations, that's more kind of long-term systematic approach, I guess, to how you motivate yourself. So you're really looking at keeping yourself and others accountable, and you're looking at short-term and long-term goals and how every action that you're doing is fitting into those. So I think that as an operations minded person, anyone else in operations will kind of understand this mindset, is that does really help you with your motivation, because you're constantly assessing that what you're doing is the right thing for you and for your business. And I think that that gave me some really strong skills to help myself with building a business, but also to support others, particularly founders who don't in general naturally have that mindset introduced, so they're not reviewing that their time is spent in the most effective way in order to achieve those short and ultimately long-term goals, because they're very short-term driven with a new idea, with a new concept that they want to look at. So where I was doing that to support founders through my career, through my consulting career, then I wanted to do that a bit wider with people. So I wanted to do that wider with female founders, because I found that some small actions that I was doing were really helping, reminding people that, okay, don't get distracted by all the small stuff, focus on the big picture stuff and what you can do to get there. So I introduced some small things that help founders with that, and it keeps them a bit more motivated consistently, I think, by bringing them back to goals and to looking at metrics.
Yeah, because like from my own experience, I've often had lots of amazing ideas. I'm kind of more of a visionary, so I had lots of ideas. You get really thrown into it and you're excited about it, and there's that whole impetus. But then actually you often stall, don't you? And I think that's often where potential really good business plans might actually never come to fruition, because you don't have that motivation to keep going. You get stuck. So is that where you're coming in, and what sort of thing, how are you supporting then?
Yeah, so I think often visionaries like very immediate gratification, and they get a bit demotivated when they don't constantly see what they're looking to achieve. And often it's a bit about they get a bit bored, in honesty, with kind of the implementation of those ideas. And in some cases it's that they have a big enough team to support that, so that they have other people who are stronger in those areas. So the visionary is so important. Obviously it's the reason that companies exist, and it's the reason that businesses exist. Without the visionary they wouldn't exist at all. So someone has to come up with the ideas, and they either need to learn some skill sets to help them with the implementation, which are to, if you can't see the success, either it means the idea isn't a good one because you can't see it, but often it means that you're not measuring it. So you're not actually measuring what's working. So if you have things to look at on a regular basis, what is going well with these ideas, what is not going well, is it being implemented, are you getting the returns that you expect? It does help with your motivation. So I recommend with my clients that we do a scorecard together. So we look at how's marketing going, how's sales going across their business, if they do a new and client retention, stuff like that, finances. And if they have a new idea, I say, okay, so let's look at the success of that project, right? And reviewing the success of the project is what gives you more motivation to decide to keep going with it. Because if you can see, wow, we've got all this great feedback because we've brought it all together, we're getting all this feedback from people doing it, let's push it a bit more, let's sell it more. So having someone support with bringing it back to kind of business basics, like assessing whether the project is a good one or whether the idea is a good one or not, using metrics, helps to motivate often the founder involved with it.
Yeah, and I would also say like teamwork in a way, because I've often had, this is just talking from my own experience, but when I've had ideas by myself, I think it's much easier to get stuck. And it's interesting, you know, I'm working now for instance, with Jenny, and it's really empowering that when the motivation is lagging from your own side, if there's someone else, they can pick up when you're dipping down and take it on, and then you'll take over maybe when they're having a dip, and then you all have your strengths and your weaknesses, but somehow that makes that bigger picture, which helps that, I think, move forward.
Accountability.
Yeah.
It's accountability. You've got this through connection and support and creating this community. You'll have, you know, it helps spur you on to have that accountability, or actually, what are your success measures? You know, how do you keep this going if this is what you really believe in? Or even just someone to say, oh, you had that idea, how is it going? Like, you know, where are you at with it? You know, and
or actually that was rubbish, Jenny. Emily, can you share a moment that you've had to remotivate yourself potentially in your own career during a challenging growth phase?
Yeah, sure. So I'm building the female founder community. So I started building that at the start of this year, and I think it's been my most challenging business idea yet. So because it's a very different business model than I've done before, and I think I hadn't really looked into enough the challenge, like what running a community was about, and I made quite a lot of assumptions at the start that were incorrect, and such as that it was easy and that people would join instantly. And so I've had a lot of learnings from that, and it was really hard to stay motivated, I'd say around month 3 or 4, because I think at the start you've got this high, you're creating all this materials and you get excited with every person that takes an interest, and that's cool. And then I think when it's moving a bit slower than you would like, I think it's really easy to get demotivated. And I think and I did, and how I changed my motivation on it was to talk to other people about it, because I wasn't really talking that openly to other people about it. And actually, when I spoke to other people building communities, I had done well in comparison to, or I was doing well in comparison to other people. So I felt like I was not doing well, and actually I was doing well in terms of the numbers and what I was building. So talking to other people really helped, because actually I was in my own world about how successful it was, which was all on assumptions. If I had done a bit more research at the start and had those conversations at the start, I probably could have bypassed that demotivation a bit better by understanding what success metrics could look like potentially. And yeah, I think it's accepting the positives, also being more positive about the positives. So it's very easy to dwell on the negative. So if you're not growing as quickly as you would like, but then when I would get good feedback that someone had attended a workshop and found it amazingly helpful, I wasn't at the start holding on to that enough. Whereas now I've flipped things and I'm really holding on a lot more to the positive and turning down,
which is feeding your energy, right? For the things that maybe don't motivate you as much.
Yes. So yeah, that's how I kind of turned it around.
I love that. And I love the fact that it's like through the talking to others, which I think is, again, returning to that thing, you know, that's where you can also get so much energy and motivation from. And if you don't find it in yourself, then someone else might be able to motivate you, you know?
Yeah.
But we're not islands, are we? You know, we're not. And this is a lot. It's always often comes back to it in the conversations. We say, you know, we need that connection with others. We need to share ideas. We need to have soundboards. We need to get feedback. We need to compare ourselves, you know, but actually do it, not in our heads. Because exactly like you said, Emily, you've made assumptions. Oh, they must be, I've got X numbers and I'm only at Y, and you know, but actually the reality is often very different when you've kind of put down the walls, or have asked those honest questions and have those honest conversations. And we need others in order to succeed and keep going.
Yeah, exactly. and I think with like using others, I think it's important, but it's also important to understand as you're building a business what will motivate you and not. And I think that comes, you have to accept that that's part of the learning process, is that for some people it could be as straightforward as making a sale motivates you, but a lot of people hate doing sales. So it's learning what parts about a business or parts of your life that you like and don't like, and therefore also helping yourself motivate yourself in the areas you do. I also feel like it is important to understand that, because as much as it's great to use others to some extent, if you also don't get the response that you want from others, then that can also be not motivational as well. So I think the more that you can learn to help yourself alongside the support of others, you've got like double the help, I guess. Like, so to do a bit of both, help yourself with motivation by understanding what motivates you and not, and maybe the stuff that doesn't motivate you get some support on from others, but just then lean into it a bit more, I guess, by understanding it.
I think that
carry on.
helping yourself is like understand, it's like learning about yourself, like you said, learning about what motivates you. Like actually when I identified quite a while ago, and I remind myself and Penny of it often, if I'm not clear on something, I go inactive. If I've got any doubt over it, be it personal doubt, or like actually don't understand the task, or I'm not clear on it, if there's any I'll just stop. I just won't do it. And I've learned to be actually, and I often be like, oh, why am I not doing much? And I have to sometimes stop, help myself to remember that this is my personal style, and what am I not understanding, and can I help myself with that, or do I need to ask someone else to help me? And yeah, a lot of it, I think particularly about your motivations, like what is it that gets you going? And we could talk, we will carry on, but it's in your wider environment as well. Like, how do you motivate yourself?
Is this a case-by-case basis, Emily, or do you advise? So for instance, for me, I don't like doing the taxes and I don't like doing the finances. I find it so dry. Do you recommend that it's something that if there's something that you really don't get motivated by, is it a way of reframing it and making it somehow doable because it's part of the bigger picture that does motivate you? Or is it just, I'll just outsource it, be done with it?
I think it depends. Of course, if you've got the budget and you can, I would probably outsource the stuff that demotivates you. Why would you keep doing it if you don't enjoy it and it's not motivating? I think as a founder, there's certain things you shouldn't shy away from. So saying, for example, you don't enjoy the tax and the finance, okay, in terms of bookkeeping, yes, but in terms of the numbers of a successful business, the founder of a business can't just say, I'm not interested, I don't want to know about numbers. So there's certain things that if you're a founder, you need to be involved in, but you can outsource the majority of it. So you don't have to run the numbers and do the reports and things like that, but you have to not shy away from them to be able to make the decisions on them.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just wondering whether it's possible. Like, it kind of motivates me as in a challenge, as in something I don't like, I would like to like. So it's kind of a motivation itself. But on the other hand, it's like, I don't know if I can put my energy into it.
I think maybe if you were really, it's an interesting point, because, for example, actually, and I can tell you something that happened to me that actually challenges what I would normally say about it. So I would have said at the start of running the community that I really hate doing marketing, and I would say I hate creating content, I hate doing marketing. And actually, because I wanted to be involved at the start of the business with the marketing so that I could make sure it was what I wanted it to be, and like that the style was good, so I did want to be involved, and I didn't want to just outsource it completely. And I did start to enjoy it a bit. And actually, I did find that I deferred myself as a kind of easy task to do some marketing, because I was like, oh, I like this. I'm going to write some content. I'm going to create some posts and stuff. So normally I say no with stuff that you don't enjoy. Like, normally, when you get to a certain point in business that you probably like never going to enjoy that area. I think it's quite nice if you're starting a business or you run a small business to have a good understanding of the parts so that you can guide other people on it. So I don't think it makes sense to totally outsource unless it's something really a skill that someone else is, like accountancy. You're not going to do that yourself. But for marketing, sales and stuff like that, I think it is good to have done it yourself, to then hand it over to someone to build it up in a way, and then hand it over to someone else.
Yeah, I get that. Just a final one for you, Emily. Do you ever have clients who are so highly motivated that you actually find yourself having to sort of rein them back in and be like, all right, okay? And because I think there's that risk of burning yourself out, right? Because you're kind of on such a treadmill of excitement and energy that can also backfire on.
No. Like, I don't think I've ever had someone like over motivated. Okay. I think very much in short stints. So a lot of founders are really, you know, come onto a call really excited about this amazing idea that they had that is gonna take over the world and stuff, but the next week they will have changed their mind about it. So I think not ongoing motivation, and definitely not about everything. So usually, obviously, running a business, there's a variety of things you have to look at. And of course, I think if a visionary was just focused on, a founder visionary was just focused on ideas and bringing new things to life all the time, probably they would be motivated more of the time if you could just focus on the part that you're trying out. But usually running a business means you have to focus on the team, on the finances, on making sales, on the, so that kind of maybe detracts, I guess, from the motivation. Maybe that's a sign that you should outsource everything you don't like. Probably that would increase your motivation. I don't know.
I just want to pause for a minute before we move on about the things that you don't like. Are any of you aware of the Eat the Frog?
Yes.
So I said it in a text to Penny the other day. My Eat the Frog is the food shop. For listeners, it's like tackling the most important and often most challenging task first thing in the morning. The one that you kind of know you've got to do, but you just put off. It might mean it's challenging for me because it's just anyway, whatever. But I just love it. It's like actually like what you really don't want to do, you just got to get done sometimes. And I was thinking about that as you were talking about finances and accounting, and you know, it needs to be done, it needs to be understood. Maybe you aren't the doer and the completer of the task, but you know, you need to have that awareness.
You need to be listening to 90s dance tunes as you go down the shopping aisles and turn it to something else. There you go. So
in a really simple way, you can say to yourself, if someone were to pay me £100,000 to do this task, would I do it? And then you're like, yeah, I would. So then, okay, this is going to move my business or move my life forward to create something amazing in the future. So then I'm going to do it now, and kind of like try and give yourself motivational snacks, like a little reward at the end of it, so that it gets you to do the task at hand.
Yeah, I think that's what it's all about. We are reward creatures at the end of the day, right? Okay, thank you so much, Emily. I want to move over to you now, Sharon. You've built a career helping people to build calm in their houses, to declutter their physical spaces. How do you stay motivated to maintain that calm in your own life when things feel chaotic?
Thanks, Penny. Thanks for the question, and also for inviting me to be with you guys today. And when I saw the question, I thought that's a good question that nobody has ever asked me before, if you believe it or not. Because I thought about it, I think people assume that I am naturally calm and organized because of what I do. And so that nobody's ever asked me directly. And the truth is, I'm actually not naturally calm at all. I'm, in fact, most of the time highly on edge and overwhelmed, and I tend to overthink everything. I judge myself on everything. I over worry. I feel guilty about everything. This is kind of the worst parts of my mind. So no, I'm not naturally calm, and it's something I really have to work hard on in my life. And I think that's why I am so passionate about creating calm and order inside my home and helping others do the same, because I feel like if my physical environment is calm and organized, then it's kind of an anchor for me, and it gives me a measure of control and order on the outside that I often don't have on the inside of myself. And so whilst I love having a calm, organized home, I also obviously recognize that that's not the answer to everything, and that a physical calm and order in a physical environment doesn't automatically translate into being spiritually calm and having peace and purpose within yourself. And so this is something that I have to work hard on, and I have to do this daily. So there's this verse that I read that says, "Catch the little foxes that ruin the vineyards." And it talks about little foxes, in ancient times, where they would creep into the vineyards and they would destroy the young and tender grapes before the harvest. And so if I think of the harvest as being a symbol of our lives, our relationships, our sense of peace and purpose, then the little foxes to me are the small distractions, small irritations, small frustrations of everyday life that come in and quietly steal my peace and my calm and my focus. And so this is something I realized I need to get sorted and work on, and getting this sorted helps keep me motivated. So there are 3 kind of things that I do, that I try and make a habit of doing to motivate me and keep me calm and focused, because of my mind always going over the top. And the first one is, then I would say, is to tend to the little foxes. So I'm trying to train my brain to notice and be aware of these tiny things that are coming into my brain, like a rushed morning, that email that I got that's bugging me in the back of my head, a comment someone made, whatever, all these little things that are creeping in under the radar, and then they're kind of stealing my peace and my calm. It helps me a lot to name them and notice them, and then put them in the right box. And which ones of these are just noise? Where am I carrying guilt that I shouldn't be, that's misplaced? Where am I trying to please someone where that's not really important? And so putting them in the right boxes and realigning with what really matters to me, what matters to me and my family, what are my values. So getting the little foxes out of the way. And then the second thing I find really helpful is to find 10 to 15 minutes of quiet time. Hopefully, if I can, every day. I need it. I notice on days when I don't get it, that I'm, just not as focused. And if I can just find 10 to 15 minutes of quiet time, and for me, this can be, sometimes I'm journaling, sometimes I'm praying, sometimes I'm just staring out the window and getting my thoughts in line and just thinking, okay, what's important for today? What do I need to get done? So this really, really helps me ground myself and kind of motivate me for what I need to get done. And then the third thing, third habit would be, I always start with ticking off the small tasks first. So once I'm clear on what my focus and my priorities are for this day or this week, then I like to just get all the small things out the way, get them done, and then I get this feeling and this momentum, and I feel energized, like I'm being productive, I'm ticking these off. And then that paves the way for me to focus on any deeper work that I need to get done, or block out chunks of time for actual focus work. So these are my 3 kind of habits that I work on continuously. And I'd just like to emphasize that as much as I love helping and motivating other women to kind of find this calm and order and peace in our homes, is that it's still something that I'm pursuing every day and all the time within myself. And it's just because I know how incredibly valuable and impactful it is to have that inner calm and peace. to motivate us so that we can live the intentional lives that we want to be living.
And we're all work in progress, right? It's like a continual journey. It was interesting as well how you're talking about, taking that time. And NLP, you sometimes do a timeline. So you would look at the day ahead of you and sort of have a visionary imagination of how it looks and work out what's happening in that day. So you're already kind of mentally preparing for what's coming up for you, which is basically ultimately what you were also saying. But I think it's also a nice idea to sort of think on that day, how am I feeling today before I assess that timeline? And actually, how many of those things are actually absolutely essential today? And is there something on there that I really am dreading, and can it either be put off or can I break it down, and then working on that? So if you're like a really motivated, happy day and everything's great, maybe you can address some of those ones that you've been putting off or you don't like. I think that also is an important thing to consider.
Sorry, I just duck in there as well, because I saw, Emily, you posted the other day about, and you did not use these words, but I put this association in. You wake up at 5 o'clock every morning. So it's, there's this 5 a.m. club, which you didn't use those words, but is that your way as well, like similar to Sharon's of making, well, you explained it was making sure you've got that time to, reset or start your day as intentionally as you can. Like, just share a bit about that.
Yes, I mean, it's a bit out of necessity, I guess. Like I said in the post, I'm not amazing morning person who wakes up naturally revitalized by life and stuff. I just do it because I want to do workouts, and for me, I get lazy throughout the day, so my motivation for working out radically decreases throughout the day. So I think if I set my alarm and I'm just going, it will happen. So I get up at 5 a.m, I go to work out, and it's done. And then when I've done my workout, then I am really productive, obviously, because I've done a workout, I've got some nice exercise vibes going on, and then I get quite a lot done before everyone else comes online. Obviously, I'm now ahead as well of most of my clients who are based mainly in the UK, so I have quite a nice chunk of time before other people come online, and I get into meetings and things. So it's very similar. It's like, it's a bit through necessity, and then I can finish it too. So I can pick up my kid and we can hang out all afternoon. So it's a bit that I've moved my day way earlier so that I can fit that in, and I can feel like I'm kind of manage everything that I want to. But I love that time in the morning. It's my favorite time. Like when everyone's quiet, I get those done. I do things like do my most difficult tasks, make sure they get done, things like that.
I just love the real talk there as well, because you could see people demonstrating that on whatever social platform you use, and I have the necessity for it, but I haven't yet implemented it, as Sharon will probably be on Penny. Anyway, but like, you're like, oh, look at them like achieving what I should be doing. But that real talk, and this is why I think it's already, and we're yet to sort of hear from you, Marnie, but I know from following you and hearing from you already, it's like, it's actually your experiences and sharing them and bringing that to life for others in a supportive way that I find really valuable, because you're just like, oh, it wasn't easy, and actually you're not a morning person, but you did it, and you've seen the change. Like, I'll be blowing that trumpet when I get to that point, one day.
And honestly, just change it. And in terms of motivation, I think what motivates me and others is that reward. Like, I feel like it works. So some days, like this morning, I didn't want to get up, but I got up, and I'm gonna get everything done that I want to. So I get that intrinsic reward that I've done everything that I want to achieve, and I feel much better daily because of that. So I think the sooner you start, the easier it gets.
But also, what motivates one person is not motivating another. So just like Jenny might say, that early morning will not motivate her in any means, but potentially she could do her workout in the evening, whereas I really cannot. I'm exactly like you, Emily. I need to do the morning thing and have that done. Everyone has their different recipes, right? And working that out.
my self-reflection time, my planning time is the evening, when I take stock on how I maybe thought the day was going to go and it did go. And like I'll never be able to have that. I'll just go back to sleep in the morning if I woke up to try and, like, you know, I honestly would. I'm like a teenager. But I do think if I got up and did something like exercise, that's different, because I'm like, there's a real purpose to this. Or, you know, even if it was such mundane stuff like washing or food shop, you know, but yeah, everyone is different, but it's so nice to get this broad like input as well, because hopefully listeners can be like, oh yeah, that's a little bit of me, that's not me. Or
Sharon, can you tell me a little bit more about exactly what that means about helping people to find calm in their physical space? When you go into people's homes, and then I guess you have that first picture, which is really kind of, you know, intriguing, that you get that insight into their private lives. Do you see their reflection in people's homes of whether they're like highly motivated or if they have a lack of motivation? Just curious.
I think it's hard to tell. Some people who are very high performing and productive people might have a really disorganized home because that's just not a priority for them. It's interesting. That could be a contrast, but it could also be, if you're someone like who's meticulous and perfectionist about your work, that your home could be the same way. So I don't know. I think it just depends on where, you know, what's important to you. And yeah, some people need a calm and ordered physical space for their minds to work that way. And others, I think one time, Penny, you told me you don't mind if your wardrobe is disorganized. It doesn't play on your, I'm not saying this, if it were disorganized, you said to me, it doesn't play on your calm, on your mindset, on your peace in the morning. So that was also enlightening to me, is that it's not a priority for everyone. But yes, I mean, I think everyone could find value in creating a sense or a certain measure of calm and flow in the house, because subconsciously it does affect our mood and the way we think. But no, I don't think, I never see someone's home as a reflection really of who they are or how they perform, how they think.
Can I just say, because I think that's really interesting, because I get told that I come across as very organized and methodical, and I am messy. I am so messy at home. I've got no like patience to keep things organized. But what I notice, it's not that I don't place value on it, but obviously it's that my priority is probably work, and that's where I put my organization. But I do really notice that if I'm stressed, then I get stressed a lot more about my environment. So actually, if I'm relatively calm about work and life and everything, I don't mind so much about what's surrounding me. Whereas if I'm stressed, it has a really bad impact and will make me a lot more stressed.
Triggerable, yeah. I think we also have a certain cup of motivation, right? So we have a certain energy, ultimately, like how much we can do with our day and what we've got. And I think you have to then choose. You can't do it all, right? I can't show up everywhere with that much energy. So you subconsciously probably do make those choices. So if I do throw all my clothes into my cupboard with, you know, flourish, because I like to do that, and just slam the door shut, it's okay, because I haven't got the time to like be folding each neatly and tidily, because I feel for me that would not be a good use of my energy. Whereas for someone else it is.
I'm thinking about Friends and Monica's cupboard. Like we've all got a Monica's cupboard in whatever area of our life we are talking about. We've all got something where we show up as one way, but then there's a little pocket where we just like put all the stuff that we don't, you know. It's a metaphor for a lot of us in different areas of our lives. A little.
And doesn't
Monica's
everyone
cupboard.
have that drawer in their kitchen that you can't quite close properly? There's some,
and you have to
like,
smash it
device
every
in it.
time,
Yeah.
so you can't get the stuff out of it. It's so full.
Or it falls down the back, and then you,
yeah.
oh my God.
I love it, Marnie, but I love as well how you broadened it to in some part of your life, because as soon as you said that cupboard, I remember when I asked Sharon if she had a junk drawer in her kitchen. She was like, no, but not in that way. But it's like, you know, Monica's cupboard shows up in Sharon's life in another way. Maybe the thoughts, you know, and it is that, because actually it's not because Sharon's kitchen is absolutely perfect. It's just because she wouldn't want that. It's just, you know, it's not functional to, you know, I'm speaking on your behalf, Sharon, but I was funny because I was like, I've asked that question.
Sharon, what tips do you give your clients in order to create more pay? How do you know, ultimately, they probably haven't had the motivation to make change, to make it more clutter-free or whatever. What kind of tips do you give them?
Well, I think the obvious thing is to start small, because it's manageable. But I think the main perspective that I'd like to have people experience is that it's one of my mottos in my messaging too, is that it's not we shouldn't be focusing on perfection. We should focus more on simplifying things. So if you can just think, how can I just simplify this drawer or this wardrobe or whatever, that already is a mind shift from, oh, I need to have all my clothes perfectly in a stack. No, for me, my underwear drawer, for example, isn't perfectly organized and categorized, but it's simplified. So I know what's in there and I have only what I need in there. So it doesn't overwhelm me because it's simplified. And I think if I could share one quick thing with someone and download it into their brain, that would be it. Like, let go of perfection and rather start thinking of how you can simplify things around your house.
And in your life in general, right? I think we do make everything overcomplicated half the time. Yeah. And trying to just stick to what the one thing is.
Exactly.
Thank you. So Marnie, I'd love to move over to you now. Your work is focused on helping women. I think you mentioned sort of mostly in sort of mid-age like us, especially those who can't have children or choose not to have children, and you help them to reclaim their joy and identity in life. What keeps you motivated to advocate for these often overlooked people or women, especially when societal narratives are often so deeply entrenched?
Yeah, I think it is exactly that motivates me, having spent my whole life not talking about not being a mum and just stepping back and shrinking back from conversations as soon as it turns to, as inevitably happens, particularly working with women, you know, women equals mother in 90% of places. And so coming to it and realizing that, oh, hang on, I just check out of the conversation. I don't ever advocate, or hadn't previously advocated for going, hang on a second, this is not a universal experience. Not every woman is a mother. And particularly being in business spaces and founder spaces and people running businesses, we often forget that other examples exist, and we don't even have a word for women who aren't mums. It's either not, lack, missing, something is outside of the norm in talking about. So I'm motivated by wanting something that has been a thread through my life is wanting everybody to feel like they are picked for the team. So in whatever way that shows up in life, that's been like a theme. And I've worked in my performing work has always been co-created, devised and cohesive spaces. It's not starting with a finished product, it's creating something as we go along, which has meant necessarily working together with people and having everybody come along on the journey with you. And I always want to feel that everybody is coming along for the ride and nobody gets missed out. And I realized that, oh, there's this massive bit of my life that I'm not talking about, or I'm just kind of ignoring. And my mum was one of 6 sisters, and 3 of those sisters don't have children, and I don't have children. And I had never, until I started having this realization that it doesn't get talked about and it gets ignored, I hadn't even had deep conversations with them about the fact that they don't have children and what their lives have been like and how they have navigated a world that is very mother-centric in not being a mum. And it was really like a bit of a revelation. So I really want women to feel like, whether they don't have children because of circumstance, or they have chosen not to, or they haven't been able to have children, that it is still, you're still valid as a woman. And I think that women have a hard time, whatever way we try to live our lives, we are always on the back foot as women, because hello patriarchy. So it's very hard, even if you are not fulfilling what the society that we live in has told is the goal of womanhood, which is to be a mother. If you haven't fulfilled that, how do you feel valid, and how do you feel like you're contributing to the world when you haven't done that thing that you are told from birth is what is expected of you? So I'm here to, my motivation is so that other women feel that it's okay, that they are valid, that they are worthwhile being on the planet. And it was really as I came to being older, my circumstance was I never really thought that I wouldn't have children. It was just kind of, I had lots of complicated ways of living my life. I was exclusively with women for a long time, and then started dating men, and kind of thought over some time it would probably happen. And I think that happens to a lot of women. It's not really a conscious choice. It just kind of, you think, oh, one day I'm going to have children, and then the last egg drops and you don't have children, and that's something that you come to terms with. But also in that, all my life, everybody has always said, oh, have you got children? And there's that kind of, like, that seems to be the first thing that women get asked when you come into any kind of event. Oh, have you got kids? And the kind of catch in my chest when I get asked that question, I thought would end when the last egg dropped. And I'm like, okay, thankfully I don't have to get that question anymore. And then it's like, as you get older, it's like, so do you have grandchildren? And I'm like, oh man, I thought we were over this. Okay, all right then. So that's really kind of what has motivated me to step into this space and go, this is not okay.
Yeah, that's fascinating, because I was listening to a documentary recently, or an interview, and it was actually exactly that. It was a grandmother who was talking about how her daughter had chosen and told her mother she'd chosen not to have children. It's not something she wanted. And she said that wherever she showed up, it was always all her friends getting out, oh, here's a picture of little Johnny, and he's now 5 months old. And she said she absolutely, wants them to have that and everything. But she said it just means in any situation, you're always the outsider. You always have that. And she had a regret for it, because she'd always sort of thought automatically she would be a grandmother. And I think, again, we just think we will, right? We will become a mother, we will become a grandmother. It doesn't have to be that way. And I think she's now found her peace with it and enjoys it. But she said it's just that recognition that if the other mothers, grandmothers occasionally took that moment just to consider she's also in the room, and how can you change that conversation? I don't know how you see that.
Yeah, it's something that comes up again and again with the women that I work with, is that it's the assumption. It's the assumption that if you're a woman, you will have children, or you want to have children, or it's the assumption that if you don't have children, then what's wrong with you? Either there's something physically wrong, or there's something mentally wrong with you if you don't have children, that there's somehow something hasn't fired correctly in order for you to be in that space. And it's a ridiculous notion. And particularly that's something that comes up again and again with the women I work with. It's like, well, that's one of the arguments. It's like, well, don't you want to give your parents grandchildren? And it's like, that's
or the family line will die.
Yes, the family line. Yeah, exactly. And it's when you break it down, it sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud, but it's something that is internalized in a lot of women. that don't have children. We internalize a lot of misogyny. We internalize a lot of ways that women are othered in any way, shape or form in our lives, and that's just another form of othering that I want to dispel. Yeah.
I saw that you posted a picture of your dog who was not motivated enough to go out in the rain yesterday.
Yes.
And I know that you talk about reigniting that spark. How do we do that?
One of the ways that I have found in motivation is to begin your day with gratitude, is an attitude of positivity and gratitude. And it's something that we're talking about, things not coming naturally, is I definitely was not naturally a positive person. I've had to teach myself out of negativity bias, which, by the way, is a biological imperative. Being negative, we kind of beat ourselves up for being negative, and that we, you know, why don't you see the positives? Well, it's because my brain has grown to ensure my safety and survival. So the things that we remember and the things that we focus on are the things that are the danger coming towards us. So in a neurological sense, that's why we see the negative. And when we remind ourselves of this, and it's something that I remind my clients constantly, is this is not your fault that you're seeing the negative. It's like your brain is wired that way because it's to remind you not to go out of the cave when there's a bear about, because otherwise you're going to get eaten. Like, so from a really drilling it down, like hippocampus, like lizard brain, that's why. So to start the day with looking at the positives and the gratitude. So I trained myself to wake up in the morning and think of 5 things, really simple things that I'm grateful for, and start the day with that before I even get out of bed. Just like 5 like little tiny things. I'm grateful to my husband for a little thing that they've done. I'm grateful, like in the wider world, it can be something really tiny, but it's just 5 little sparks of positivity of like things you're grateful for to start the day, and then 5 things that you're looking forward to doing in that day. So they could be there could be something that you're really looking forward to, something that you're grateful for, looking at ways that shifting your brain from, oh, I have to do this, to, oh, I get to do this. Like just even acknowledging our privilege is really like a massive thing, and to motivate you to do something. And you were talking, I think it was Emily, were talking about testimonials and the things that people, like when people say good things about you, like write that down. Because we all will forget. We will remember that one thing, that one negative thing that somebody said about us, like even in primary school, we'll hang on to that. Whereas you could be like the most amazing person and have a building named after you, but that person with the building named after them will always remember what their one teacher said that demotivated them 40 years ago. So really having ways to remember all the positive things that people have said to you, or that the positive things have happened, the wins that have happened, and write them down, keep them in somewhere that's really easy to find, will motivate you. And the thing that really motivates me is that I know that there are loads of women out there who are not mums, who, like me, have never even talked about it to anybody else. They don't even vocalize it. They just have it in them. It's internal, and it's kind of like hidden. I hesitate to say shame, because it shouldn't be shameful, but they kind of like feel shameful about it, even talking about it and declaring it to be something that you don't want to be a mother, is to kind of somehow, as soon as you say that, that somehow you are rounding on people who are mothers, and it's somehow it's very complicated. So
yeah, it doesn't have to be these 2 camps.
No.
I interrupted you before you finished, Marnie.
Yeah, exactly that. And that's something so I have a community, a space called the Otherland Salon, which is about just getting together every couple of weeks, women who aren't mums, to just get together and be in a space together where we can be. We don't have to answer that question. We're not going to be asked that question. It doesn't matter that we haven't fulfilled our biological purpose. Like, it shouldn't. Women should be seen as autonomous beings, whatever has or hasn't happened in their wombs. And that's really my motivation. That's really my mission. And that's what motivates me, so that any woman feels that they have a space where they can not feel othered by the fact that they aren't mums.
So is that the sort of starting point that you'd say, that when someone comes to you, that actually to give them the motivation to move on and not feel that shame, that the first part of that is actually unloading, like, say, letting it all out, having that space to be heard? Is that a big part of that journey?
Yeah, and seeing that you are not alone, because we feel so alone. It looks like if you look at anybody's social media feed the last couple of days, we're recording this at the beginning of September, and everybody's social media feed is just full of back to school photographs. This is my, so you can feel that you're the only one who's not at the party. And that's not the case. It is statistic that 1 in 4 women will not have children, and that's like a quarter, which is it's a mind-blowing statistic. And if you look at any commercial on the television, you look at any time you open your computer, woman equals family equals children. And when you're not in that club, it can feel very isolating. So I want women to feel connection, and all of my work, all my career has always been about connection and bringing people together. And that's what I continue to do.
Do you think you're more powered? Sorry, Emily, do you want to dip in?
I just wanted to say that, just on a slightly, to reiterate what you're saying, is that I joined a lot of communities, like women founders, like mums in business and stuff like that. And what I found all the time, so I am a mum, I have a child, but for me, when I'm talking about work, I'm very separate, like quite a lot. And part of when I started my community, and what a lot of my language was about, was when I went into a lot of the female business groups, they ended up being a bit of a moan fest, always talking about kids, always saying, I can't possibly run a business because my kid's sick, I can't do this. And even me as a mum got fed up with that language. And I think, and what I think is, I mean, I love the space that you're creating anyway, even though it wouldn't suit me. But I think also what's a shame is that a lot of like the women business communities have turned into that, because then it becomes very, because even me, I didn't like it. I was like, I'm a mum and I'm not enjoying this, because it just feels like something
one
that
of my
is
clients,
not relevant.
One of my clients at the beginning of the summer said, I can't believe it. She's in a women in business space, exactly as you described. And the first, like, okay, so we're going to talk today about, so how is everyone juggling childcare over the summer? And it's like, hang on, this is a women in business. Like, can you imagine like an all male space having any kind of conversation about childcare? Like, why are we having this conversation in a women in business space, not a mum in business space? It's like that. So all of those things.
I've got 3 children, but when I go on a night out, I also don't want to talk about children all night. And that's another one that often happens in like social circles, that you do sit there and you're thinking, I've been here for like an hour and we're still talking about our children. I would just like to have, an hour where we talk about like travel or politics. I mean, maybe politics not right now, but something else. And that's definitely a thing. And another one I wanted to mention is, I think also people who have 1 child might feel, again, they're in another group. When are you having the second?
Yes. Why are you how selfish of you not to give your child a brother or sister? It's crazy. Women can't win. I say this all the time. You know, if you have one child, why aren't you having more children? If you are a woman who stays at home, it's like, why aren't you showing your children what it's like to be out in the world? If you're a woman who stays at home, it's like, what? If you're a woman who goes to work, how can you leave your children? It's like, we can't win. Like, we literally can't win because of the way society is constructed. So it's best to make the best of it and motivate ourselves to be the best that we can be. I mean, we're fortunate that most of us, when we're talking about the hierarchy of needs, we're able to reach the top, right? The five of us sitting here today all have that privilege. So in that privilege, we should be talking about allowing the other voices and the other options to be discussed. And it should be that if you don't want to have children, or if you don't feel maternal or motivated to have children, that it should be just okay. And most of the time you get bombarded with 100 questions about your choices.
And what I love about the work you do and how you talk, Marnie, is it's like we should be autonomous as women and the people we are. And I don't always feel comfortable with the label of mother. I am a mother, but it's like, that's not all I am. I also really struggle with apart from the work that Penny and I do, and I left my corporate career to come abroad with my husband, and I've struggled with that balance, you know, like I my main job is a mother, and I struggle with that, and because it's not how I am comfortable with wholly identifying as, because there's so much more to me and I need more. And it was one of the motivations for Penny and I to set up the Informed Perspective, is because we just want to hear about other things, and we're just curious. And you don't always get those conversations when you're out with friends, because if they're, you know, friends that are all parents, it just typically lands in it. Sharon and I had similar chats last year where we were like, we just want to get groups together and just talk about stuff that's not like the chat or and don't get me wrong, like it gives me value and meaning, and you get that validation you can share, but I need more than that. And I think a lot of other mothers do need more than that, but don't know where to go and don't feel confident enough to strive for it, or to ask for it, or to say, I need that and I need more. And, you know, I think there's so much empowerment for what you're doing in you know, for all women, because
absolutely,
it's not just how identify as a mother. And so my last one is for the women who are, you know, in this modern society, we can decide when we want children, give or take. Not everyone has that luxury, I know, but there is choices we can make, and we can plan it or not. So then for some people there's this burden and this pressure, like, I'm getting to this stage, should I have a child? Do I want a child? And, you know, your question is motherhood for me. Like, there's no space really given that
no, there isn't.
Actually, you talked about your aunties, you know, turning to, and, you know, role models, or, you know, I fully, you know, I think amazing to people who have choose not to have children, or choose to have one. And I think it's there's so much, people can learn so much, and people should share their experiences and be able to be honest about it, rather than, oh, this is what I feel like I should do, or what society expects of me.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to a lot of women over the past few months when I've been building this community, who are not only women who don't have children, but I've also spoken to women who are mums that have very candidly said to me, I actually didn't want children, but I felt like I should have them, and I went, and I felt like it was expected of me. And that's not to say that they don't love their children. That is not the point here. Like, I'm not suggesting in any way, shape or form, but they didn't feel like they had the option. And it does take a very strong kind of person to say this is not for me. And what I want is that any woman could have that. You don't have to be a trailblazer. You don't have to be cutting through the overgrown forest to say no and have the strength to do that. There should be a clear path. When we're talking about motivation, when we're talking about things that are easy to do, we're going to always take the path of least resistance. And if there's no path to not having children that seems clear and available to women, then they're going to go the path of least resistance, which crazily is growing and raising an actual human. Like, how is that like the path of least resistance? But here we are. And then you have the situation where you have a lot of women who are absolutely overwhelmed by the fact that they are having to do this and that they are not maybe suited to it. And how is that the best thing for the children that are being raised as at the same time? So yeah, choices.
And
Yeah.
I'd also like to sort of say, going back to motivation, if you know what motivates you, that is like one of the first things. So find the thing that does motivate you. And I think it's a common thread here. We've all found something that is actually a real big motivator for us that we want and need in our lives, and then turning that into what you're going to do and run with it. And I think, that would be my message as well to our tweens as well, is like, what's the thing that fires you up, what gets you going, what really motivates, and make that what you're going to do in your life, because I think that's also so essential. And I feel that when you've got that motivation, you're going to bring a different energy anyway to that work, right?
Something that I teach in my program is an ability to trust yourself. So it's a technique to actually go inside and ask yourself the question, and ask yourself any question, and have your body tell you the answer. And that's something that is, we also as women, we second guess and doubt ourselves so much and so many times because we have all of these conflicting messages that come to us from the gender reveal party. Up until like adulthood, we are being like having to second guess ourselves, and there's so many ways that we are given mixed messages. That is one of the things that I teach, is a kind of self-reliance to go in and actually ask yourself the question and trust yourself to give yourself the true answer. And that is such a powerful thing to be able to do, and it's something that I love to teach because it's really so helpful to actually go, oh, actually, this is what I think. And that's something particularly for the tweens, to have a bit of self-trust, to really like have a moment to go within, like you were saying, Sharon, to have some time each day to go in, like to have quiet and let your quiet voice come out and actually tell you what you do want, is such a powerful thing.
And talk to people who are motivated themselves, who've got an energy, right? Like there's so much doom and gloom in the world where we're just thinking it's all hopeless and but if you turn to someone who's powered up and excited about something else, that already gets my goosebumps going, even if it's not my subject, it's just like, where's the energy? So follow it.
Which is the great thing about Emily, you're like having a community where you're like surrounding yourself with motivated other people. That's another great motivator, to surround yourself, exactly as you say, Penny, with people who are motivated.
Yeah, love it. So we better move on to the tween talk question at that point, because that links in quite nicely. So we want to ask the question to all of you: how do you motivate yourself when you feel like everything is hopeless? And Marnie, because I've got you on at the moment, let's ask you first.
Yeah, I think, as I said before, I think about all the women that don't know that there's another way. All of the women who feel, if I don't show up, and if I don't talk about this, and I don't show up every day and try to find new audiences and new ways to communicate with women and tell them, it's okay that you don't have children, it's okay that you are where you are, and it's okay that you feel a little bit lost and unmotivated by your life. There's another way, there's a way to, and that's what motivates me, that there are people out there that need to hear about what I have got to say, because it's going to help them to live a better life. Because you are the love of your own life. Okay, and until you can show up for yourself, you can't show up for anybody else, right? There's a reason that when you are on an aeroplane, they tell you to put the mask over your own face first, right? Because until you can get the oxygen into yourself, you can't help anybody else. So that's the motivation, is to like have some self-reliance and self-trust and give yourself the love, because then you can give it to other people.
Sharon, for you?
Yes, I think I would say it comes back to turning into yourself, reflecting, finding your own calm and grounding yourself, because only we can really identify what is really significant for us. And each one of us here have spoken in a way that you can clearly see that all of us have different things that we hold valuable, that inspire us, and that bring meaning to our lives. And I think we have to keep zooming back into and shake off the little foxes and keep tuned in and zoomed into what brings meaning to us as individuals. And that, I think, is something that attracts others that think and feel the same, and it keeps you on a path of also living a significant and fulfilling life.
I'm going to be chasing little foxes in my sleep tonight, I think. And Emily, for you?
Mine's quite straightforward, I guess. If I feel like things are hopeless, I list out what is going well and what is not going well, and usually the outcome is that things aren't hopeless. So I just really try and be straightforward about it and put it in a factual way. So either what's gone well in the week or what's going well in general. And actually, when you challenge yourself, it's not hopeless most of the time.
Yeah, and sometimes giving it a bit of time, isn't it? Maybe 24 hours later, things are a lot different or look a lot different when you thought there was no way out.
And take stock, isn't it? You know, in whatever way that is, in your own reflection, in your own motivation, or in your own, like the actual reality of it as well.
Thank you so much. A huge thanks to Emily, Sharon, and Marnie for joining us today and for the honest and thoughtfulness that they brought to the conversation. Hearing different perspectives on motivation, how we find it, lose it, and keep coming back to it is a valuable reminder there's a no one-size-fits-all approach. It can shift, evolve, and surprise us, and it's always worth paying attention today. So everyone listening, motivation isn't just about pushing harder or powering through. It's also about listening to yourself, noticing what truly matters, and creating space for the things that keep you grounded and energized. We hope maybe something today in today's conversation gave you a fresh perspective, sparked a new thought, or simply offered a moment to pause and reflect. And a big thank you to our brilliant tweens again for contributing today, asking a deeper question. Your voices matter more than you know. If this episode resonated with you, please feel free to share it with a friend, a parent, a teacher, anyone who might appreciate a thoughtful moment. Until next time, stay curious, be kind to yourself and others, and keep informing those perspectives.